All right, call this meeting to order. I don't think I ever got a gavel. Oh, well, okay, like passing.
Take your shoe off.
And you, yeah.
Little key, cruise off.
Okay. Call the meeting to order of the January 12th Audit Committee. Little typo, it's 20265. That's good. 2026. I've had to.
Star Trek.
Yeah. I've had to retrain my brain for when I write the date already, 12 days in. We need to approve the agenda. I know Mr. Stanton, you had 2 items you wanted to add?
Sure, if we have time.
Yep.
First one was a follow-up to the discussion from October 6th, so I guess maybe we put it under old business.
Okay.
And that was understanding the revenue interruption and some economic forecasting that I've been discussing in the meeting around that.
Revenue interruption from non-posted tax?
From shutdown.
From the government shutdown. Right. The government shutdown. Okay.
And the other one was just sort of maybe a roundtable discussion about what we'd like to accomplish as a group in 2026. I called it the 2026 Audit Committee Annual Plan, for lack of a better term.
Okay. Audit Committee 2026 Annual Plan under new business.
Sure.
I also had added, I know that it's already on here, cash balances and collections. Robert, I know you're prepared to speak through that report that was provided to the board December 12th, but I also want to add to that item a discussion of missed interest opportunity or revenue because of a delay in posting of tax.
As a separate item or as a part?
Revenue. We could put it as a separate item, but I'm going to talk to Robert about that, so we can do that right after cash balances collection. Prior to the meeting being called to order, Mr. Stanton was sworn in by our illustrious clerk, Laura Smith. You want to tell the group what that was about?
So I guess I'm a citizen appointee to the Southeastern Public Service Authority for the county, so I'll be working with Dawn, ensuring our interests are represented there at the authority.
SIPSA.
Yes, SIPSA.
Which Lisa has
Congratulations.
lots of experience with.
Yes.
Having been the former CFO of SIPSA, right?
And executive director.
Executive director, yeah.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Okay.
Congratulations. And Mr. Stanton had asked that we do that right to the prior of the start of the audit committee so all his friends could be present.
All the people that supported me.
Yes. Thank you. All right, so 2026 plan we've added under new business. Government impact on revenue, the shutdown we've added under old business. Cash balances collections report is already under new business. I would like a brief report of audit. I know the audit isn't wrapped up yet, but I'm guessing that can be under old business as well.
It's already on there.
Audit process.
New business.
Okay, under new business. The treasurer will not be able to make it. I've had some email communication and wanted to update the group on a meeting. Let's just say treasurer and an interim meeting that Mr. Baugh and I had with Julie in December. We'll put under old business. And then 2 items. I want to talk about CIP funding and commitment. Where should we put that? New business? And also that issue on delay of, like I said, revenue delay due to tax revenue delay, real estate taxes due to longer posting times. And an idea of how to increase online payments. Everybody good with that?
I have to be home by 6:30.
Yeah, I know. I try to keep this to an hour. We'll go quick. Nobody filibuster, and I think we'll be okay. All right. Does anyone like to move approval of the agenda?
Who's replacing Thomas DeStefano?
So we have an executive meeting on Thursday. We contemplated in our organizational meeting, it's a long answer to a short question. We contemplated regional committee replacements on the 5th in our organizational meeting, but I think there's some additional work that we have to do regarding committees, task forces, et cetera, as far as delineation of those. But I was planning on asking about that, if Don can help me remember, at the executive committee meeting this Thursday. So it'll be
Not sure
one
about
of
the
the,
executive committee meeting part, but the board meeting, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about the audit committee's appointment.
well, we usually do appointments in the executive committee, so I figured we'd talk about it probably in both meetings. But yes, we will be replacing Mr. Supervisor Stefano on the audit committee with another supervisor, hopefully this week.
As such, then you make the motion that we approve the minutes as written for the October 6th meeting.
Okay. Mr. Grice has made a motion to approve the audit committee meetings from the October 6th meeting, which was our last meeting. We went ahead and canceled in December, a lot going on, and the audit wasn't wrapped up yet. So all in favor, approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Fantastic. Now, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Approval of the, I'm sorry, I got it out of order.
Mm-hmm.
I do it with all the amendments that are on here.
Mm-hmm.
I would make the motion that we go forward with the presented agenda.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Agenda is approved. Well, Mr. Stanton is prepared to give our invocation this afternoon, and then we'll all stand for the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather in your name and in the service of your people. Please imbue us with your wisdom, your resolve, and your humility to perform our duties with your grace, guidance, and compassion. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Never knew my elementary school training would serve me so well. All right, Chairwoman's comments. I think I've probably said enough, and we're going to speed through this part. Although I will just reiterate that we're going to talk about which supervisor to replace Supervisor DeStefano, hopefully this week. So we'll get this really cooking with gas. Okay, and we've approved the minutes from October 6th. I know you all missed each other. Next up is unfinished or old business. So let's talk about metrics for the treasurer's office. So that item, Mr. Ball and I did meet with Ms. Sly in her office. There was the three of us. I know Don was another in the meeting. He popped in. He was like, "Do you guys need me?" We're like, "No, we're good." So he thankfully jetted out of there and went and took care of other stuff. But Dale and I did meet and speak with Ms. Sly about collection percentages, staff development hours, their coin system activity log. We talked about increasing online payments. We talked a little bit about like on-hold messaging, you know. She said she was going to have to ask how the telephony system worked. I mean, we have some follow-ups for that. Mr. Ball, being the good secretary that he is, took all the notes. He's in Florida. You notice he's not here. So we'll get your report back next meeting when Ms. Sly can attend as to all of kind of the metrics and things that we're going to try to track beginning from this point forward so that we get a good handle on their level of activity and how we can help them be more efficient, right? And do an even better job of documentation of all the work that they're doing. Talked about the treasurer's website. Talked about emailing bills and what that would mean for opting in, things like that. So we did have a good discussion, and she was pleasant and helpful and supportive. I also got an email from Ms. Sly to my county address just within the last week she said she has 4 people out today, could not come to this meeting. We will put her, if we can put her on the agenda for the next meeting to do a report. Hopefully she won't have as many people out, but maybe we'll be further into flu season and everybody will be well, who knows. But Ms. Sly can come and talk to us about, you know, these measurement aspects, and also how she's doing on collections. She sent me a report, well, we got this many $1 million, you know, collected from taxes that were overdue and in arrears, etc. I have zero ability to do anything with that number if I don't know what the top line was and or what the number was last year. Like, so it doesn't matter to me what the big millions of dollars a number is if I don't know how to judge if it's good or bad, right? To give it an up or a down. So,
Or was it measured against, what was the collection goal
right.
versus what has been collected?
Yeah, so, yeah, we'll talk to her about that next month. But again, and did I forward you that email, or were you copied on it?
So,
No? I can forward it to you. But again, just the amount of revenue that was late, or again, in arrears, to have the large number of what that was doesn't help me from a business management perspective or oversight if I don't know what the goal was and or what last year's number was. So we will definitely be following up on that, as well as all of the measurement criteria and ideas for departmental improvement next month. All right. So next on old business agenda would be a discussion based on the October 6th meeting. I know Mr. Stanton has been doing lots of work with friends of his at ODU to understand impacts on revenue from the government shutdown. Mr. Stanton.
Thank you, Chairwoman. So just to refresh everybody's memory, on October 6th, we were 6 days into what became a 43-day shutdown, and we were sort of wondering, you know, how long will this go on before we start to feel the pinch in terms of real estate taxes not getting paid and so on and so forth. And of course, we had basically no insight, so I took the action to connect with the Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce, who gives an annual, as you know, an annual report on the state of the economy here in southeastern Virginia. I reached them, and then they put me in touch with Dr. McNabb, who's a professor of economics there at Oldham University, who actually gives the regional economic forecast every year at the chamber meeting. I have a meeting with him, if the board wants me to continue on this path. I have a meeting with him Wednesday morning to discuss ideas and possible models, crude as they may be, around understanding the potential revenue impacts if we have a prolonged government shutdown. I guess my thinking is if we start to have protracted ones, maybe leading on into the holidays, and people start coming up short on paychecks and things like payments can't get made, tax payments can't get made. Now, I caveat all that. I think all taxes are due June and December, correct? So it really wouldn't be an issue until we sort of get to the end of December, right? So that would be a really bad scenario for the country, never mind the county, I think, if we went upwards of 90 days in a shutdown consideration. But I guess where I'm going with all this is it's better to think about these things when they're not a crisis than when they are. So if the board, if the committee approves, I'll continue on this path, and I'll rub antlers with Mr. Floyd on some ideas. I think a lot of this revolves around how many people do we think live in a county that actually pull down a federal paycheck or a paycheck that is on a revolving basis from the government. Not an end item contract, but a services contract. End item contracts they pay because it's already paid up front. So anyways, subject to the committee's desire, I'll continue to pursue that. And again, I think the idea we're looking for is just a couple of rules of thumb, some ideas of when we potentially might be in some hot water. I do know of at least one military command in this area that employed a fairly large number of federal civilians. By the 1st of November, they were working with food pantries to get money for their employees and food for their employees. So if they were looking for food by early November, you wonder how much longer it is before they can start paying their real estate. So I think this was a very real problem for the employees that were affected. And it just became a matter of time before that starts to trickle onto other obligations they have. So again, I think if we could just understand this, and I think the next question beyond that, once we understand what it looks like mathematically, if you will, is what can we do about it? If there's anything we can do about it, I don't know. I don't think we issue bonds for near-term cash flow. That's probably not a wise practice because that just makes the county have more financial risk. But anyways, I will continue if the committee so advises, so recommends. But I was just thinking, I do believe that this unfortunate event is going to probably become standard practice given the political dynamics in our country going forward. So I think we probably just find ways to think about accommodating it. And it's
Well, I'm in favor of you, researching the topic. I agree with you when to consider our response is best held not in a crisis, but in times of peace.
cool of the morning.
Yeah, so any other comments about that topic?
I have one, and I would like you to add to the list of your discussion items the rollout implications. When you have a shutdown like that, what happens is it impacts not only the payment of taxes or whatever, but also other payments that that individual is making. And in order to catch up, they set priorities.
You talking about a household level?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so, as a consequence, if they're going to take away my house, not paying the taxes is going to take a long time for you to take away my house, but my mortgage company may take it away next week.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is the like a rollout of the catch-up process? Because it doesn't, they don't get healthy all at once.
Right.
So I'd throw that in there. And in the same context, I want to look at, do we need to establish a reserve revenues for cap on those?
Mm-hmm.
So we have I know you like to call it the rainy day fund.
Yes.
You're speaking about a separate
No, not
pot of money,
necessarily.
same.
Same one. However, the criteria that the board has used in the past has been it needs to be an emergency. It needs to be something that is critically needed. The question has been, would this fall into that category? If you needed fund, it's better to use those funds and then schedule a replacement
Got it.
than to go out and borrow money and pay interest on it.
Borrow from yourself. I'm
Makes
sure
good
it's
sense.
used for cash flow.
Sorry?
I'm sure it's used for cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, first we have to determine what the N is, right? So that's probably what I think Ms. Jan's following up on. Mr. Floyd, any comments about the
I
topic?
think that your last point right there is valid. Definitely don't want to go out and start getting rands for anything, because coming from a locality that did that year after year after year after year, it's not ideal, because you'll say you get $3 million, you're paying back 3.5 every year. So now in 7 years, you spend $14 million, $3.5 million just to get $7 million. So that's definitely not something you want to do. But definitely looking at, I think, the policy piece as far as the rainy day funds. I know that rainy day fund, people like to call fund balance rainy day fund, but that's two different things altogether. So I'm with you. Looking at that policy, I'm sure we have it collectively in the county, so that's something to look at.
So the criteria within the policy, it needs to be re-examined from time to time.
Absolutely.
And to adjust for such.
What would trigger using that, because if it's deemed an emergency, then you would want to define what would be an emergency. I think that's what we would definitely look at doing.
Okay, do you think that that's appropriate for the next meeting, or?
No, I think you're going to report back on your meeting, and then maybe we'd establish it.
Meeting after that? Okay. All right, so the policy we'll consider in 2 months if Mr. Stanton gives us a report out next time.
And if I do collect some meaningful data, I'd like to connect with Mr. Floyd and just run a few ideas by him about some models.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, anything else for old business? All right, we'll move to new business. I'd like to start with just a review of cash collections reports from Mr. Floyd. I know you were, gave the Board of Supervisors reports December 12th. I think there was an Excel cell
Correct.
problem that you corrected, so I was hoping that you could cover with this committee the corrected reports.
Correct, and actually, we have the most recent ones as well. So, what we had discussed, I think the last time, was when we start meeting, in advance of that meeting, we provide a collection report as well as the cash balance report. We did it for the first time, I think, in November or December, and then it was representative of October. So we were thinking at the time, we were trying to clean up on audit, get everything ready for that. So we were quite frankly delayed, but as of the last week, our folks were able to get us through December, which we had provided to the board, I believe, last week, or?
No, it's in the agenda.
It's in the agenda for the meeting upcoming. So I have those copies if it's okay to pass out to everyone. That's collections, and I'll get to the cash as well.
Thank you.
Do you need one?
Is this Mr. Floyd, Chair, is this information embargoed until it's provided to the Board of Supervisors? Should we keep this close hold? I mean, you haven't.
We'll get it on Thursday.
It's public information.
Yeah, but it is,
Okay.
yeah,
This is the one I think.
Probably in the back.
It is.
yeah.
This is the right one, but the other one's important as well. Here's the.
Thanks.
So I think the first one that I handed out kind of goes in line with what y'all were talking about previously as far as collections historically. This kind of breaks down, and what the team has done is kind of gone through the major taxes that we've got, and then showing from basically 2012 to 2020, those are the old taxes. So essentially taxes that were billed almost 10 years ago, or more than 10 years ago, are still on the books, specifically for real estate, because they have a 20-year delinquency period. But showing essentially what was levied versus what was collected for the previous years, for those back years, and then from 21 all the way to 25 showing the same data. So when we talk about, remember I was saying that the 99% isn't necessarily 99%. It is for the older taxes, but if you look at 2025 at the bottom, we're at 86% collected for what was billed in the most recent billing cycle. So to temper the expectations that we're going to hit 99 in the current year is not realistic.
So December 5th bills for real estate are at 86.46%.
That was as of, that could change from the date today compared to when we did the report, in fairness. But you gotta draw a line when we're providing these to the board. But with that said, 86% is still not horrible considering timing. To your point, there could be delays in posting and things of that nature since we no longer.
And they haven't done late notices or any of that.
So there's no
That process
problem with billing
is
out, yeah.
not even close to being, oh,
And we were looking at the revenues the other day and nothing was alarming at the time of looking at them.
Okay.
As a whole, anyway.
So the first one is real estate, second one is personal property. So there's a P1 and a P2. So that's period 1, period 2, so June and December.
Well, the second P, VP, isn't it?
Business property.
That's what BP is.
But what is P2?
Probably June and December, right?
Correct. That's the first and second billing cycles.
Oh, okay. On personal property only, not on real estate.
Real estate, we've only got real estate 1 currently, but in the previous years, if you look at the previous years, it's for the whole year as a whole, that's why it's showing. So once we get the second, or once the second billing goes out, then it'll show RE1 and RE2. But since we only have RE1 currently listed.
So the second,
June.
No, that's not right. I said that backwards. We do it so June and December.
Right.
Because we bill on a calendar year, not a fiscal year. I stand corrected. So from a budgeting standpoint is what I was thinking in my head.
Personal property is January to July, or June. The periods, real estate is
June.
December.
December's your first payment,
Correct.
June's your second payment.
So I don't know why we
Refers
would
to personal property.
Which that's
Typically,
something
get
we
all
want to see.
of those bills at the same time.
To the taxpayer, they just get billed.
Excuse me. So for personal property, PP1 is December to June? Or January to June?
Personal property is January to June.
And
January 1 to
then
June 30.
PP2 is July to December. But real estate tax
Is,
only goes out once a year?
no,
or-
it goes
Twice a
like
year.
July to December, January to June.
It's the same situation.
Just not sure why there's not an RE1 and an RE2. Why is there only one line of real estate tax?
I will follow up, because this was a report that was generated long before the current folks that are doing it have done it. So if there's a different way we want to display it, we can. If we need to do away with the ones and the twos, because quite frankly, personal property is personal property. If you want to break down categories behind the scenes, you can according to the billing code, the charge code, but essentially it's not personal property. It's going to hit the same accounts.
So there should either be two lines of RE1 or
Just
one line of
correct.
personal property. So it's consistent, but that's just my opinion. So I don't know what everybody else thinks.
We didn't change the report from what it, I mean, it's same
It's been
format,
like
it's
this for
always
years,
been.
correct.
So-
My
It's just
understanding.
the first time I really thought about it. So,
Well, I think if you're showing a two billing cycles, you ought to have both of them on here. There just won't be anything reported for the second one if it's not applicable.
the real estate tax does get billed twice, so it would be applicable. I think in the town, they just went to a once a year billing for something.
So, I'm sorry, Mr. Floyd, for real estate 1, and personal property 2, those periods ended in December, or soon, January and December respectively, correct?
Trying to think through. I don't know if that's necessarily what we're representing, because if you look at the amounts, it's only roughly half of what we would have collected anyway. So this is only accounting for one billing cycle, which would have been the one for December.
For real.
And is this through 31 December? These numbers are through 31 December?
This is, yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay,
It was as of literally the 5th of January when they ran.
okay.
Or when we ran these.
Okay, so Mr. Floyd's gonna look into
Yeah,
that.
I would have the date that this report's through. You know, so as of December fiscal year 2026, that doesn't tell me a whole lot. So perhaps putting a date on there, this report is as of, and the date that it's being used.
In the header, because to your point, the date matters,
Right,
because
absolutely.
every day you take more money in. Okay, good suggestion.
Under 2025, for the personal property 1 and 2, under the column supplements, they're negative. I would think if that's adjustments, it would go in the other column. You see where I'm
Yeah, when do they do?
showing a
that?
negative 1.9 million, and then underneath that, negative 635.
Not necessarily, it could be adjustments in the system itself. Those could be debits to the revenue accounts, which that could account for, possibly even without looking at the numbers in the system, that could be our accruals back that would have credited them out of the current year back to the 2025 year. Which, I did those numbers, that looks awfully familiar, but I don't want to hold myself to that. But if there's a negative amount in the supplement, it's going to be an adjustment of some sort. It's not accounted for in your abatement/adjustment. Because the abatement/adjustment column is going to be to the individual accounts. Anything on the other side would be to the actual revenue itself. Which you would only see that in the periods when we were doing the year end, which we would have done that in that month for in December is when we did all of those.
Well, the thing that concerns me more than anything else on here is the percentages of collected.
Why does it concern you?
Take a look at the, through 2024, and you're only talking about the real estate tax for one of the building cycles. And if it's 86%, and if the second cycle is 86%, we got a problem with cash flow.
I was assuming that the real estate line is both periods, 12 months, not just half.
For which lines in which year?
Like 2025, 26, RE1, 26, 127,538.96 million.
Yeah, I don't know why we have the RE1, because it's not listed in any other year. We'll fix that. Really, real estate should just be accounted for the whole time. If you want to break it up into what was billed in the first half, you can. If that's the way y'all prefer.
Well, you're reporting only the first half of 26 million,
Correct.
okay? And of the 26 million, you're saying 86% of it's 86% has been collected.
Keep in mind, if you are delinquent on a previous year and you make a payment for the current year, it's gonna go to your delinquency first. Unless we have something written in Alawite County that is different, that I have not dug into our code ordinances like
That's
that.
accurate.
Standard.
So working in that office before, if you're delinquent on a tax from 5 years ago and you go to make a payment for current, you're now delinquent on current because all that money goes to your delinquent, which is why you see the 99% for all the other previous years. Odds are the folks are probably delinquent in those years current, so they pay backwards, even though you think you're paying current. Well, they make, I mean, in theory, you would think you'd be paying current. If you're delinquent, you're paying over.
What I'm alluding to here is that we have, in real estate, not necessarily for personal property,
Sure.
but in real estate, we have had a remarkable high percentage of collections, and it has never been in the 80% that way.
I'd be curious to know what the report would look like at this time last year. But without comparing year to year, I don't know, I can't say we're worse or
I'm
better.
not sure I could dig up all my old sheets from years ago, but I will tell you that it was never out of the 90s. And we're talking about at the right after the tax collection period. This community is very, very good about paying the real estate taxes on time.
Has everything been posted?
Back to what we were saying before, if everything hasn't been posted,
They're caught up from posting according to the treasurer.
when was that as?
It was before the Christmas Eve service when I saw her person at church. So it was in December, but certainly by today.
Right.
My recollection of looking at past reports, I didn't recall that 86.46% was very different from at least what it was last year. Now, Mr. Grice is referring to reports and a previous administration under a previous treasurer, right? So I don't recall that 86 is vastly different from what it was last year. So this, could be a problem that's not just a this year problem, but, perhaps last year too. I do think we should do some research and look at the real estate line historical percentage of collections over the last few years. Not as they stand as they age, but what were they at this point, to Mr. Grice's point, what were they at this point in, say, FY25? Any other comments about cash, or the collections report?
I will echo what you said, sir, that when I arrived here, one of the first observations that I talked to the county administrator about this as well, and I think I might even have mentioned it here, that I did notice that historically we had a much higher collection rate than a lot of other localities, that I have definitely been a part of.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. That does that number scare me? Not necessarily, because it's really about timing of when this was ran, what other adjustments were on board and things like that. Now, if I check it in a couple of months and this number hasn't changed, we're still at 86% before we do the second half billing, then yes, that could be potentially alarming, because this is percentage based off what was billed currently. Or do all these folks pay at the end of the year and then it makes no harm, no foul? I don't know how to answer that without having gone through a full cycle of billing and collections for the real estate.
Okay, any other questions about this report? I think, Mr. Floyd, there was a suggestion by Mr. Grice to add the actual date of when
Yes, ma'am.
the report is through. Take the 1 off the RE category for FY26 and to provide a historical kind of look back at, I'd say, we should go back probably 3 years. I'd like to see 23, 24, 25 at this point, so January of 24, 25, and 26, so we have a 3-year comparison point.
And I don't think it's been done in a very long time. but I think that it deserves some attention because we've had so much turnover in the board. I remember a chief financial officer here in this company, or in the county, standing up in front of the board saying, this is the first time in 12 years anyone on this board has asked for an explanation of cash balances. And someone ought to be looking and presenting to the board, you know, SNAP bond, bond principal on SNAP of 2016.
All right, so yeah, let's go to that report. So we're done with the collections report. We'll let Mr. Robertson and Mr. Floyd confer for a second, but yeah, so we'll move to the next report, Isle of Wight cash balances.
So within that 2016 and 2022 and 2024, in these bond issues,
Right, I'll definitely.
there are restrictions on what you can do
Yep.
with that bond monies.
Which
Yeah, I
means
don't know
the cash
what's there.
balances report. There is a typo in balances, twice.
Yes, there is.
Okay, Mr. Grice, you're speaking about bond principal 26, 22, 24.
2016, 2022, 2024, and then of course you have the interest that you're getting. And by the way, that interest is also restricted to the similar utilization. Or can be used for to pay down, to pay the bond interest and principal at the time it's due. So, yeah, so at some point in time, and it doesn't have to be today or next week or this meeting, but somebody ought to sit down and explain why you have this many accounts and what's in them, and what can they be used for.
I think we also need to make sure we're comparing apples to apples in terms of the reports. And I'm talking about timing.
Right.
So for just example, 2016 bond principal and then bond interest, the 277,000. Can that be used to pay bond principal, or is there a reason why you would hold that because perhaps you're making more interest? The rate on that bond is so advantageous that it just makes sense to keep it. I mean, it's the same discussion I think you have in your household with a mortgage rate or something like that. You know, if you got it really low during COVID, you might just want to hold on to it, especially if your interest rate is favorable. Okay, so probably would like to have an in-depth discussion on bond balances and interest. Mr. Floyd, you're getting a lot of homework this time. I'm sorry about that.
Can't wait.
Okay. All right, so regarding other accounts, I mean, any comments on that? The only comment I would have as I look at this out of the gate is that I think I've been asking for us to use a bank that actually conducts business in our county for a while, and I see that we still have Bank of America. And I know that they send a truck and make it easy to make deposits and to do business with them, but I really think it's a disservice to the banks that actually do take the time to, I don't know, join our Chamber of Commerce, support our kiddos' baseball teams and all kinds of things like that, and find it that it behooves them to have an open local branch in the county. I think those places of business should be rewarded over a bank that hasn't had a branch here in several years. Comments?
Is there a significant difference in service fees between a local bank and a Bank of America? Is that how we landed here, or is it because?
We landed here because they used to have a branch.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a local bank, but rather a bank that has a branch,
Sure.
at least in our county.
It was put out on an RFP type process to pick the bank, I believe.
Sure.
So what does it take for us to spin up an RFP to choose a new bank these days?
It's up to the treasurer.
I was gonna say, it depends on what the code says locally on who manages the banks or something.
I mean, they just did it in Smithfield.
Yep.
A couple of years ago, I think, 2 years ago.
Last year.
Again, if the treasurer is happy with the services she's getting, then
Right.
Okay. Would this committee like me to ask the treasurer about possibility of spinning up an RFP to change the bank to an institution that has a branch open and active in our county?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And it might be interesting to ask the treasurer to participate, the treasurer manages this money, participate in the discussion of what it's for, what can be spent on, et cetera, et cetera.
The cash balances from the bond?
And any of the other accounts, what are they there for? The board needs that basic knowledge. You know, you say you have a county payroll account, okay, fine. Is that also inclusive of the school?
Yeah.
Okay,
Schools have their own operating and payroll.
okay, and then, so there's another, I'm assuming that the monies that the school is operating on is in your own accounts.
Yes, but it's still under the treasurer.
But not on this report. I don't think it's ever been, I don't think the school balances are ever on this report. Okay.
Nothing more.
See, that was the question I had. I thought, you could assume that was the account of everybody that's paid by the county.
Well, we don't reconcile the school's bank accounts, but we reconcile them under the treasurer here
Sure.
for the counties. So while we don't have any, you wouldn't be providing the reconciled information to you.
I thought on this report, although it was a different format and it was before your time, I thought there used to be a small account for the school cafeteria fund or something.
That's with Town Bank.
Yeah, but it used to be listed on this report that we got. And I don't know why it would be different from the payroll and the operating account, but it was a different, just small account that had a little bit in it on cafeteria balances.
I'm not sure, but it's with Town Bank. The operating and payroll are with Bank of America, but Town Bank has our health insurance fund, cafeteria, and student activities.
Is the cafeteria now a contract or is it in-house?
It's in-house,
It's in-house, okay.
second year in a row.
So you use Bank of America too?
But we just started doing the bank reconciliations, last year.
Remind me, DSS is,
Social Services. Department of Social Services.
okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments about the cash balance? Looks like we'll talk about that again next month and give us Sly an opportunity. Maybe we'll invite her to our entire meeting as a special guest and discuss the cash balance report and definitions as well as the RFP for a bank.
And I would note the RFP, one of the, not necessarily requirements, but one of the factors you could weigh more heavily is local branches. But, and one of the other components is going to be, what is the cost?
Correct. Costs. There are many items on the RFP,
Right.
so appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mr. Floyd, for those reports. Look
One
forward-
last question.
Yeah.
And that has to do with the cash. We used to get a graph, and it showed how much of the cash was restricted and how much cash was available for other. Are we still getting that? Is the board still getting that, do you know? Because, I mean, if anybody looks at this, they say, well, we got $68 million, what are we worried about? Well, how much of that 68 million is restricted?
I'll show you that one. I mean, I don't think we've done that one for quite some time.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I'm just
these two
taking notes.
reports are the only things that we've gotten, and we just got them again starting in December. So I've not seen a restricted and non-restricted report yet. Sounds like Mr. Robertson and Mr. Floyd are gonna get together.
It was just a chart.
Yeah.
Showed you the cash in it.
Is that in the end of the year report? No?
No, it was a monthly report. The former treasurer used to provide that as a part of the information the board received.
My apologies if I missed this. I know this is going to be provided to the board of supervisors. It's going to be provided on a regular basis. Is that the expectation going forward? It's,
We used to get these monthly.
Yeah, I feel good that we're back on a monthly track.
We didn't have these ever. I didn't feel warm and fuzzy.
Sure.
Yeah, committed to the county administrator to provide on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And he started that back December 12th. So this is the advanced copy, updated January 8th, that we'll get on Thursday, that we've already gotten in our packet. On an ongoing monthly basis. Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Obviously, if something comes up, you'll be the first to know, and then you'll be subsequently next. Desire and goal and plan is to do it on a monthly basis.
So regarding these reports, the next thing, well, not even really these reports, but the next thing that I asked to have added to the agenda has to do with real estate, especially real estate revenue tax collection. I know in our last meeting, or even since the last meeting, there's been some discussion of delayed posting of tax payments, right? So this issue is twofold. One is that, Mr. Floyd, the treasurer's office, prior to Ms. Sly taking office, had a posting of payments like a clearinghouse, right? So a lot of the checks that would be mailed to satisfy personal property and real estate taxes would go to some lockbox in Baltimore, and that operation would process those and electronically submit to the accounts the money that came in. Ms. Sly, upon taking office, promptly canceled that contract, citing mismatching of funds and delays and just, general dissatisfaction with the clearinghouse as her reason for doing away with that contract. But, we've talked about in several forums over the last several months how when checks were written for real estate or personal property taxes, that maybe they were written December 1st and it's December 19th. I'm just citing one citizen example. And the check still hasn't been cashed. So people are trying to balance their checkbooks and they're like, oh my gosh, I wrote this check December 1st. It's December 19th. And this particular citizen that I'm familiar with the situation, goes to the treasurer's office and says, I wrote my check December 1st, it's December 19th, where is it? Oh, let me see. And they're like working through a box of checks that have come in that have not been entered or therefore cashed. So one thing, Mr. Floyd, I wondered if you could help us with, and I do have a citizen who's willing to help do an independent audit of whatever you find, that has some knowledge of these things. Actually used to be the supervisor representative on this committee, so that tells you it is. But, I have someone that's willing to back up this analysis, but I wonder if it would make sense to look and see how much in interest it cost us for checks not to be posted for many, many days, right? If there's analysis can be done based on missing out of more immediate check posting. And then you kind of weigh, do you just need a different clearinghouse that maybe does what you want? Is there one that's more affordable? But either way, are we spending less than we're making based on having more immediate access to the money than waiting and having it sit in a mailbox? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You guys support looking at that? And Mr. Floyd, can you imagine a way to get to that data?
And if you look back to the report, if you're sitting at 86%, how much of that is, the shoebox is still full?
Well, it shouldn't be, because this report's as of December 31st, and I understand that everything was processed before Christmas. So they weren't entered by Christmas, is what I was told, but.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
if
maybe
you got a
not.
shoebox full of, or a crate full of unprocessed checks, you're gonna have a lower percentage,
Right.
because they haven't been posted.
So is there a way, Mr. Floyd, to calculate the amount of money that the county lost due to delays in posting?
If all the data was there to determine what was delayed and what wasn't, then sure. But I don't know who would have that information.
So in Munis, there's not a field of postmarked,
Right, there's a post date and
Posted.
effective date, but we're short-staffed and we're still not even fully staffed finance. So the individual doing this report is she just actually took on a new role of a vacancy that we had, so her role is actually vacant. So she's doing her job in another role right now, so she would be the one that would be doing it. And she thankfully got this put together, is all I can say. Ready with the errors.
curious, I don't think this is a fire, right? Because we're not gonna bill again now until June 5th, until later for due June 5th. But just curious as to the exercise of, and look, I think what you're saying to me is, Renee, we're not fully staffed enough to have people working on reports that are just out of curiosity, right?
That's solid.
Yeah. But I do think that it's a problem to not get checks posted in a timely manner. And so I would like to find a way to quantify that.
I think it really boils down to a cost basis. It should be better than getting a couple extra people to do nothing else but that in a certain specified period of time. Hire part-time people, bring them in, get it done. And what is that gonna cost versus the staff? What it would cost in getting it done. I mean, if you're doing it twice a year and you've got peaks and valleys, and they certainly have a peak and a valley, okay, self-created, then how do you address the peak?
A lot of localities have a lockbox. They use a lock.
Which is what we had before the previous
I'm
year.
not saying that, we just literally said that, but a lot of localities insulate themselves from having this very same issue by having the lockbox that literally they will process them as is. And then we'll post the payments. What we dealt with is if there's missing information, let's say you send in the wrong submittal, they'll post the payment, so therefore the account is actually updated, but then they'll send the checks to the departments and they'll make sure that they verify all the correct information. But the money would hit your bank account or hit our bank account in a timely manner, but they will flag those transactions that were issues. We're here, we're at the mercy of however fast we can process it.
I just wonder if the data's available, because, does the treasurer's office enter a postmark date? Because you could have a postmark, but you don't know when you actually receive it, so is everything stamped?
And then
That's
is that entered into the
Yeah, you
system?
have to be able to know exactly when you received it and when you processed it, and I don't know that.
I don't know if they do that.
Yeah,
I don't think they do.
Right, I'm not knocking them, I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
If somebody leaves their tax payment in the
Yeah,
box out
right.
front, the ladies literally bring the box in and
Yeah.
set it aside, because the phones are ringing off the hook and
Yeah.
people are lined up at the doors.
And typically what would happen if you're picking it up in the morning, you'll date it for the day before, but if you pick it up in the afternoon, let's say you do 2 runs of the box, if you pick it up in the morning, you're gonna post date everything for the day before, and if you pick it up in the noon, you're gonna post date it for that day.
I think to Mr. Barry's question, is that entered in Munis to a queryable field?
Well, there's a post date and an effective date. So
But that's with the,
right, but
that's
that's
with posting it in Munis.
correct. So again,
The date that the check was received in the treasurer's office,
Yeah.
though, I don't know that you would
couldn't
have
track
that.
that.
Because then you could look at the receipts in Munis compared to the deposits at the bank.
Right.
So you could see if there was a difference there. Because I would imagine if they post it one day, it's probably in the bank the same.
But
Or
if
if not,
Within 20
If they had the staff to do what you're asking,
Yeah.
we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Okay,
It's
well,
something to look
The
at,
question
but I,
is how do you get a variable staff?
How
Because
do you get what now?
you don't need these people for a good portion of the year. So how do you develop the part-time staff? How do
That
you,
is increasingly more difficult
I think
today.
you do it with the lockbox, is what Mr. Floyd is saying, and what we used to do prior to.
Yeah, but he's asking
15
about the
months.
staffing. The lockbox is outsourcing
Guess what? Outsource it, all you did is move the problem. They have the same problem on the other end. They got people working this stuff. Unless they have automatic scanning equipment and readers and all the rest of that stuff.
That's why the bills come with the codes, but they do. But there are people that are in charge of it, to your point.
Yeah,
There's
they
there.
have to staff up. And by the way, they're gonna staff, particularly at the end of the year if you only have one building site.
But then it's their problem, not ours, and at least they're getting at the bank.
But they're figuring out a way to handle it.
Right.
So the question is, if we're gonna continue using it at the local level, let's figure out a way of handling it.
Right. Okay, well, yet another issue for Ms. Sly to discuss, and Mr. Floyd, I wouldn't say that you have to put yourself out, but I would like to understand what dates are in munis, to find out if that information is queryable or not.
I will say this is caveat as we were going through the year-end process, what the date shows as an effective date in munis isn't always the correct effective date is all. And you get where I was going with that. That's not a knock on anybody, that's just reality. The effective dates that you show and run a report may not be accurate 100% of the time. I would argue 99% of the time they probably are, but with thousands and thousands of transactions, 1% is still more than you would think.
Okay. My other point for new business about thinking about ways to get money in the door sooner is, we've talked about trying to drive up online payments. And so I suggested that I just wanted to run by you guys, that we could talk to the treasurer about perhaps and consider as a committee, and then it would have to go to the board of supervisors, obviously, is, I know we've been told Tyler Cashiering Munis has a certain percentage that you have to pay if you use credit or bank ACH, right? So use credit or bank ACH, right? So it's like 3% for credit card, 2% added to what you owe if you use bank card, which is not necessarily an incentive to pay it that way.
Right.
Which means that if I, as a citizen, really have the money and care about, saving 3%, which could be a large amount actually, then I'm more likely to come pay in cash or to write a check, which then produces more work, I would imagine, for the staff in the treasurer's office. So the idea is, would it be possible for the county to offset that 3% and 2% to incentivize people paying online? Does that make sense?
You're
I
gonna
would
lose
think-
2% of your, 3% of your taxes.
Well,
Well,
unless your interest earnings could cover that.
Right. That's where this somehow to quantify lost revenue based on timeliness of posting matters, because we would have to consider that as a data point when we were considering if it made sense to have that money for an extra 21 days, if it covers the cost of, as Mr. Jones
there
said.
was a period of time when you could do that, and there wasn't any extra money collected. They were the opportunity of having the cash in an expeditious manner was offset by allowing him to use a credit card and then paying the fees. Then we started, as the retail community has, everybody started charging a service for it. Now, a couple times a year, retailers got smart. They don't have anything else going. There's no Valentine's Day this month, there's no this, that's the pay. So they went out and they said, we're gonna have a tax-free day. Well, basically what it is it's your marketing, come in and pay your tax bill from this time to this time, and instead of it being a 3% charge, it's only a 1% charge. Or there's no charge. And then skew that if you want to.
So I'm just wrestling with how to quantify if covering / waiving the fees to use the technology is worth getting the money in the door sooner and boosting the number of online payments, as offset by more interest and less work on the part of the staff to have to post. Because I'm assuming once you pay it electronically, then it's electronically posted as well and you don't have to touch it.
Right.
So I don't know how to quantify that, but I would like to consider it. Let's let you think about it.
Yes, ma'am, let's add that to the list.
Mhm. All right,
Is that for all accounts, Chairwoman? Or is that just for the personal property?
you can pay personal property and real estate and business license, I think. You can pay anything you need to pay the county online, correct?
Fees.
Permits,
Mr. Floyd, fees, permits, all that.
public utilities.
I don't know about the utilities part.
Excuse me, there's most real estate is, there's a monthly payment that goes from the mortgage company to the county.
Right.
So is there a delay associated with that?
No, a lot of that is in escrow, and I would assume that's all electronic and it's coming from your mortgage company.
Okay.
Correct.
But all of all of our holdings that are ag use and of nature, we don't have a mortgage on those. So
Okay.
there are a lot of residents in the county that directly pay their real estate tax. That's not held by a mortgage broker.
Okay. So for the property that's owned outright, there's no note, you can still set up ACH to pay the
You
county.
could, but you're gonna pay 2% of the amount in a fee.
I'm not paying.
Sorry.
Not on
ACH.
ACH.
On a- So one is 3%, one is 2%. I know there's fees for it, but
That was a charge for ACH.
so just credit card.
I think it's just credit card.
It's just a credit card processing.
So is the question more around how do we incentivize people to get to ACH vice credit card payments?
How to get to anything online, so it doesn't have to be posted and so that it hits them more immediately.
Right.
That's the question. And is it worth it to try to abate the fee so that you have earlier access to the money and less work to do it?
Does the county accept PayPal and Venmo and?
Cash
Cash
app.
app.
I don't know, but I like it. I like where your head's at. Yeah. That's probably a limitation of Tyler cashiering if I had to guess, but
Apple Pay.
But that's gonna go right to the bank,
Check.
so then it's getting an electronic file from the bank so that you could upload that to Munis.
and it's not really a credit card.
Because I knew through one of those, you could set up the ACH payment, and you just set, because I would think some people are gonna be hesitant for giving you, the county, your bank account number, and then maybe some don't know how to find the routing number, to set up an ACH.
Yeah.
But once you do it, in PayPal and those others, it's there.
Right.
I guess that's where I'm stuck on understanding what's the reluctance? I mean, people have a way to get the money to the county in an expeditious manner through ACH without any fee. So it's just a matter of lack of awareness or mechanics on how to do it?
Or not wanting to put your
about
bank
to say,
account
yeah,
number, putting it that out there.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it. And there's nothing wrong with it, but that's just my personal preference, not to put my bank account out there.
Yeah, there's some protections on credit cards, right? Insurance and different things, but it's a little harder to get back when you give away your bank account and routing number. But I think it's all of it, right? Some of it's awareness, some of it is generational, some of it is mistrust, distrust of giving up your bank numbers. So definitely will help us be more efficient, as with the use of any automated AI process. Will help us be more efficient the more we can drive to online payments versus having those huge, as Mr. Grice was referring to, the bumps, right? Of when you bill, June and December, it's like a time that people want to take off, and it's the busiest time of their year because they're posting so many checks that people are ready.
And if you really want to have fun with all of this, is you bring in cash and see if the person at the counter still knows how to make change.
Sounds like there's a story there, but I'm not going to ask because we're already at 506 or 507.
Shortages and overages.
You still have pennies here at the treasurer's office?
I have no idea. But you're right.
No.
Most, I shouldn't say most, many places no longer deal in pennies.
Yeah, the last time I was in DC and then New York, the restaurants all had posted that they're not dealing in pennies any longer. And so if there was an issue, it was $2.41, the benefit of the arrangement would go to the patron, so they would just require me to pay $2.40 because they're not dealing in pennies anymore. So they're erasing that.
They're not being made anymore either.
Right. Yeah.
There are places that are cashless,
Right.
Yeah. Most football stadiums.
all football stadiums.
It's the one that comes to mind. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Good discussion. Let's talk about the 2020 FY26 or FY25, I guess, audit.
Yes, ma'am. So I can honestly say, not honestly, like everything I've said wasn't honest, I can proudly say that we have turned over everything, all the information over to the auditors as of weeks ago. It's been several weeks since we provided them your information. In fact, it's been so long that they followed up with us 3 times, twice today for information as they're going through their process to finish up our audit. We ran into some obstacles early on. I will be brutally honest. Upon our arrival, Mr. Robinson and I talked about it a lot, is during the interview process about where were we at in the process. And upon getting here, realized quickly that with the turnover and the folks being in different roles, and quite frankly, folks doing 3 different jobs, some of the things that would have normally been done from a year-end process weren't done necessarily in July and August when they would have been done, and where they will be done moving forward. So it was myself and the team over a 3-month period, once I got finished with the budget piece, which there was going to be something at the board meeting on Thursday to talk about that. Once we finished up the budget document, I jumped in head first with the team, and we finished up all those year-end entries that were lagging. Did a lot of the reconciliations that were lagging. All of those are done now. We were able to close the books for 25. They were closed out, I believe, a couple of weeks ago as well. We were able to do year-end close. So everything is turned over to the auditors. We even actually went out prior to my arrival, bringing in a little bit of assistance from another group with that as well. That is closed out, and now the auditors will be working on the actual ACFR document, and we will propose the date of February 1st to 28th is when they anticipate it being completed. Myself and Mr. Robinson firmly believe, based on where we were at, that middle of February is a realistic date, with the caveat that they said the month of February would be when they would be complete and have it before the board.
Mr. Floyd, I guess I'd ask, when a director of finance leaves, was it that she was personally doing so much of the work that it stopped? Or did the people who were doing those reports, like Stephanie left and they're like, oh, I forgot what I was supposed to do, I don't have to do that anymore?
So I will say this, the folks that you had there, what was the individuals?
Yeah, so it's not just the transition of the director.
Right.
We had a team of folks who have been doing this for several years. 2/3 of that team is no longer here. And so a lot of knowledge, expertise, and experience went out the door. Retirement, transitions, there's no, like, that one thing, no, it's a lot of things that snowball. So.
Right, and I can attest that a lot of the vast majority of the things that we spent the last 3 months working on were primarily done by these 2 individuals. To their credit, like, I would never say anything, they did a lot. But on a positive note, the team that we've got now, minus 1 vacancy, it was a group effort. So we went through all this together. There was more than one, there's at least 2-3 people that know how to do a lot of these things moving forward. So that's key to me. There shouldn't be one single point of failure or success in the department. If you have a small department, there's nothing you can do about it, but we have the staffing to where we can do some cross-training. So there was multiple folks involved in that process. And we've already started it to where we're doing our quarterly checks for this year. So this time, we're not dealing with the delays for next year.
Okay, great. So when you had the auditors here and you were presenting information, I'll ask the same question as Mr. Berry next, but is there anything that stood out or anything to highlight?
No, they actually weren't even on site. The 99% of the information that they do is done via virtual. So they have a portal that we submit everything to. So we put everything in the portal for them. They were on site prior to my arrival, I think in March, April, something like that, for a pre-audit visit, I believe they had mentioned.
Yeah.
So a lot of the legwork was done then, which they will probably do the same thing this year. So I don't know how to answer what they did because I wasn't here.
Okay, so you don't have any feedback?
No, but working with the auditors, I've worked with that company at every locality I've been at in Virginia. They're reputable auditors. They're great.
Yeah.
So he basically said, listen, 99% of what we do is virtual, but we only come out there because we kind of have to, is what he said, without saying it. You know, I mean, they have to deal with the school, social services, and us, so it's easier to come on site to deal with it. But realistically, they could probably do all of it without even being on site, because anything they need, we just provide it to them. I'm sure it's the same for y'all.
Same
Sure.
question for you, Mr. Berry. I know there were some things that they were looking at last year, and if we didn't continue to track those things, I mean, Mr. Floyd, there were several that had to do with the treasurer's office and submittals and reconciliations, et cetera, but I think there were a few things on the school side too that throughout the last year of the audit committee, you felt pretty sure were addressed, so.
Yes, ma'am. No issues, and I reached out to the auditors before Christmas, and I think last week, just trying to get the status to see if there was any issues with the statements I provided. Because we actually returned money to the county, and we're gonna ask for that back.
Oh, really?
So.
Because of something the audit uncovered?
No, their
No,
year-end close.
Our year-end close, we collected more revenue than was budgeted. So we ended up returning that.
I think I saw something about that on our agenda. No?
Not yet.
Because I'm waiting for the auditors to confirm they agree with the statements I provided, and if so, then I would take a request to the school board, and then that would then come to the board of supervisors.
Yeah, I was about to say, the day that they tell us they gave us some money, they're also coming with a request for it back, so.
Oh, right.
You haven't seen it yet.
Perfect.
And that's before they add on 26% increase for this year over last year, with lower student count.
So it's an expected behavior to find out the amount and then ask that it's.
Yeah, it's normally the funds are returned back to the schools to use for one time.
Yeah, I mean, they
one
typically have
transition.
projects that they're working on, and it's common, it's done every year.
Yeah.
It's specific.
Okay.
It's not guaranteed, but it's commonplace.
Yeah, but it's on one time, deferred maintenance or other initiatives.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that's part of the way we fund capital projects that the school has, so.
Yeah.
It's not.
All right. Anybody have any ideas about things you'd like to talk about in 2026? Calendar year 2026. Mr. Stanton asked that this be added to the agenda. I mean, maybe we, being that it's 5/16, maybe we take some time and think about it and solidify an action plan next month, but I would be interested in anybody's immediate thoughts.
I try not to talk a lot in here, but I forgot who it was. It was one of the two gentlemen here, I believe, mentioned policy review. I think that would be something, I was shaking my head a lot, but I think it might have been you, sir, that said it. I agree, like policies collectively to review that from a financial standpoint. I think that'd be, maybe not every month, maybe it's every other month or something, but I think it's worthwhile having more eyes than the norm looking at them.
So before you joined, we spent several months as one of our first orders of business reviewing cash collections and handling policy. So it took us quite a bit of discussion and time, and we were pretty proud of that, and forwarded it up through the Board of Supervisors, and it was ultimately adopted and agreed upon, by the treasurer as well as the two finance offices. So I know we worked on that. At one point, I know Stephanie, again, prior to your arrival, had provided the financial policies in a notebook. Mr. Grice has his here tonight. And so, we looked at those one other time, but I think an annual review of policies and just talking about what issues are before us makes a lot of good sense. So I wrote that down. Anybody else?
Yeah, the county's going to be going into a borrowing mode sometime in the next couple of years. And that's always a lot of fun.
Yep.
And as a consequence, I really think it would be beneficial if the audit group understood the processes and the things that are available. You know, do you borrow from a bank? And if you borrow a certain amount or under a certain amount, you can get this and that. Or do you float bonds? You know, for a long time, the school, and I think it's paid off now, the school, quote unquote, borrowed $8 million for the CTE program and has been, quote unquote, paying it back with money that we give them to give ourselves back. I mean, you know,
No, sir. I mean, that must be done because we're not.
yeah. But, I mean, it's just taken out one talking together, but you need to understand the process. and the
So who do we think
procedure.
has the expertise to school us on bond market and borrowing? I know in a CIP committee, Don, you and Robert went through some things with Supervisor Stefano and I.
Well, the experts are probably going to be at the Board of Supervisors February meeting or the March work session because the Board of Supervisors needs that education right now.
So you're bringing in Davenport to speak to us? Great.
Which was time.
And the February work session was canceled, so we couldn't do that.
Okay, so Mr. Grice, sounds like that's coming. I'm sure we pay Davenport handsomely to do that kind of education, so.
But you got 2 brand new board members as well, so.
Yeah, and all Board of Supervisors meetings are recorded, so perhaps the audit committee meeting after that presentation, maybe we all take some time and make sure that we watch that one, and I'll rewatch it, since I'm sure it's like watching a movie 3 times, you hear different things each time. So, we will do that and then certainly put it on the agenda. It's a good idea. And Mr. Floyd can back up, different options. I know I appreciated the time that you spent with the CIP committee speaking about, smoothing over borrowing and bonding and why you do certain things that you do based on interest rates and what makes sense at the time. I think all that thing's good review.
Well, just to give an example, it's always fun when someone comes up to the podium and tells you to take the rainy day funds and pay off the debt.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a nice thing to say, but it doesn't work.
Right.
Because they don't understand how bonds cannot be, without penalty,
Right,
paid off early. I mean, there's
So I was like, for the most part.
Certain types of bonds.
certain
Yeah.
types of bonds.
Right.
So, I mean, there's obligations that come with these things, and so it's a lot more complicated than most folks are aware.
Right. Some bonds are set up to where you refinance them there, and I've seen it, we were talking about it in that meeting, very same meeting, that I've seen debt that was set up before with the intent, in 10 years, we're going to literally refinance and get more debt. So that was just a placeholder until you did the real debt, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we went from tax exempt bonds, at one point, we put them in taxable bonds and converted them, and people were just, that process is not understood.
Okay. Feels good. Along the same lines, I'd like to have a discussion in the audit committee about the long-term CIP, so the 10-year CIP commitment, and kind of projecting that out. Let me give an example. So we have to project out long-term CIP that, even what's on there right now before any amendments is a lot of money coming up, as Mr. Geis said, because we're facing a school replacement, right? So you're looking at least $50 million. I mean, in the current CIP, it's $25 million FY27, $25 million FY28. So without any changes or any other things, those are big chunks. So we have to figure out how to pay for it and smooth over the amount of debt that we take. With regard to other capital purchases, I think most of you all know that we have a schedule of how often ambulances and fire trucks, both very expensive things, right? How often those and which ones and which squads are coming up for next replacement, right? And so one of the ideas that I wanted to look at was, does it make sense to go to a vendor and say, look, we have this schedule, we're gonna spend $1 million, $1.5 million every year with you for the next 10 years because this is our schedule of what we know we want to replace as far as apparatus goes. Is there a way to do fixed or cost plus or any kind of special financing, because then you know that you can plan on this amount of business? I mean, because again, we haven't planned out for the next 10 years what apparatus needs to be replaced and at which level. So is there a financial decision or a contract that can be entered into that, yes, commits us for a period of time, but gets us a return based on that commitment with the vendor? So I want to talk a little more in audit committee about CIP and about, things like that. When you think about really putting a pencil to being strategic, not saying that our CIPs in the past haven't been strategic, but for example, a CIP in the past, until we have a specific amount of what a new X is going to cost, I don't know, HVAC on top of the Smithfield Library, until we know exactly what that's going to cost, there was hesitation to place that in the CIP as a placeholder. And I think I'd really like to get to where even if something is a placeholder, as Mr. Robertson says, you put a placeholder, it's never going to cost less than what you projected for it to cost. So you got to be careful with that as well. But again, if there are ways, because we're being strategic, and ways because we've planned out for the next 10 years to make commitments that then offer a return to reward our strategic planning efforts. So I'd like to dig into that a little more, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
Is that just limited to capital equipment? Do you want to at some point maybe extend that to services?
Good question. I'm not sure how service contracts works. That might be part of a policy of how we contract for service contracts. I don't know, right? There may be limits on how many years certain service contracts are, and initial terms, and evergreen, and blah, 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 all the things. Just my specific example was, if we have a 20-year, or at least a 10-year replacement schedule on apparatus, and we know that we're going to spend a certain amount, then why are we messing around with different vendors when we could commit to the expenditure and perhaps get a deal? But we can ask about service contracts.
I would say there may be a challenge with committing to future years purchases without budget appropriations.
That's
So-
the problem.
So that would be entering into multi-year contracts.
And the intermittent years where something happens and you go off schedule, how do you handle that? So, I mean, I think the idea is really good, particularly if I'm going to standardize my fire equipment or my EMS equipment, and I'm always going to have XYZ company now for the next 20 years. It would be nice, but how do you commit to something as a government agency, how do you commit to something that you do not have the money in place to pay for? That, I think.
Yeah, so if it's not illegal to share with that vendor,
Use it as a negotiating.
use it as a negotiating tool, right?
And it's not illegal to share your CIP. It's public
Public
record.
information.
I suspect they're looking at it.
Yeah.
I think that's why government contracts cost so much. My clients always look to see what the budget item was for the next purchase.
Right.
Or for construction.
Yep, for construction, every time.
How much did you budget for?
Yep. The bid comes in $1 under that.
Right, to Mr. Robertson's point. Okay. Anything else for consideration of 2026? We will put this on the next agenda if you'll give it some thought over the next month. I don't expect that during a meeting when you're already having discussions that you're putting on your best brainstorming thinking cap. So please give it a little time to calendar year 2026 audit committee to-do list. Okay. Those are the things that I had documented as changes to the agenda. Is there anything else for the good of the order? I guess I'll start over here, Mr. Berry. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Floyd? Mr. Gray? Anything else for the good of the order? Mr. Stanton?
No, Chair, one very comprehensive meeting here.
Thank you. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.